On June 9, 2024, the Ukrainian Defense Ministry suddenly released a piece of news claiming that the Russian army used a drone to destroy a Su-57 of the Russian Air Force. Later, the Russian Special Military Operations social account also posted a statement confirming this matter, saying that the Su-57 was only slightly damaged by a missile. Other performance is still perfect and is currently being repaired, but the Russian authorities have not responded to this matter. Today, we will talk in detail about why the Russian Su-57 was still hit by a drone under the guise of self-defense. Although Russia does not comment on this matter, according to satellite photos released, the Su-57 was indeed attacked and damaged. This incident not only raised questions about the real performance of the Su-57. In the late 1970s and early 1980s, the Soviet Union began to develop a new generation of fighter jets and was expected to serve in the 1990s. This plan is called Ashi-90. The new fighter requires greater ground-to-ground attack capability and can simultaneously replace the main aircraft of the time, the MiG-29 and Su-27. The Russian MiG Air Force launched the MiG 1.44, while the not-so-active Su-1 launched the S-32. At that time, the Soviet Air Force chose the MiG 1.44, and the Su-1 was based on the S-32, which produced the S-37 and was later renamed the Su-47. Due to the collapse of the Soviet Union, the MiG 1.44 was seriously lagging behind. The prototype was launched in 2000 and was 9 years later than the plan. At that time, the design was significantly behind the American F-22. In the end, the plan was canceled. In 1998, Russia re-established the technical requirements for the fifth generation of fighter jets and launched a new plan, the Frontline Air Force's Front-End Aviation System, and in 2002, the Su-50 of the Sukhoi, MiG, and Yakovlev companies was selected. In order to reduce technical risks and distribute costs, and at the same time fill the standing vacuum period before the new fighter was commissioned, some related technologies such as propulsion and aviation were applied on the Su-27 and became the Su-35S. On August 8, 2007, Russian Air Force Commander Alexander Zelin said that the first prototype of the T-50 had been built and the flight test would begin. In 2009, the design of the T-50 was officially recognized by the government. At that time, there were already 3 prototypes. The T-50 project was called the Hunger Project by the engineers at the time, because the Russian military could only provide 20% of the military funding to the research department. At that time, the Sukhoi company could only provide 40% of the funding, and the remaining 40% did not fall. Until 2005, when the United States developed and equipped the F-22, the Russian military began to worry. From 2005 to 2016, the Defense Procurement Plan increased the investment in the T-50. In 2012, the Russian Ministry of Defense purchased the first 10 test aircraft and then equipped 60 standard models in 2016. The first aircraft will be equipped with existing technical engines. The Su-57 is expected to serve 30 to 35 years. Therefore, there is no doubt about the strength of the Su-57. It itself is a tight-fitting model. The real performance has not yet been verified, only some seemingly very strong figures from the Russian government. On June 8, 2024, a Russian Su-57 multi-purpose fighter was hit by a drone at the Astrakhan-Akhtubinsk Air Base, which is 589 kilometers away from the front line. The Ukrainian intelligence agency also said in a statement that it was the first time in history that a Su-57 was destroyed. Because the Su-57 did not take off, it just stopped at the airport. In this case, it can only be said that the Russian air defense system is going to be carried over. Now that the Russian-Ukrainian war has been going on for more than 2 years, we can also observe from it that the Russian air defense system has always been in a very passive situation. It can be said that the Russian air defense is 10 times as good as the Chinese air defense. The Russian Army's air defense system is relatively perfect in all countries in the world, but it seems that it has not yet solved the problem in Ukraine. So what's wrong with the Russian air defense system? Now that the intensity and density of the Russian-Ukrainian war have reached a new historical level, modern battlefields, due to the intensity, strength, and reaction speed of long-range firepower, are far more than ever in history. So the density of the troops can no longer return to the Second War, to the extent that an armorer and hundreds of tanks are lined up on a few kilometers in front of them to launch an attack. This makes every tank on the battlefield a valuable asset in the hands of the commander, which cannot be easily lost, especially for Russia and Ukraine. Although there are as many technical equipment as necessary in the warehouse, it still takes time and money to take out the equipment and repair it. So in fact, it is still quite precious, and it can be said that it cannot be replenished in a short time. So the Russian army, in the early days of the war, surpassed its own logistic support capabilities to the limit. In fact, it was in the hands of the most exquisite combat forces in its own hands. Of course, this is also the same as the Russian military reform, in which the nobles did not customize their main assaults, and the battle group was equipped with sufficient logistics support. But about this, for the weakness of the Russian logistics support, in fact, everyone was quite surprised. After all, even in the open recommendation of the U.S. military, it was predicted that the Russian army would be overrun, but no one expected it to be so powerful. Of course, this is just the second. In fact, the equipment is precious. The problem is that the ground equipment in front of the airstrike is very fragile. In this Russian-Ukrainian conflict, both sides used a large number of drones, but they were almost all small suicide drones. In terms of firepower output, it was still a little weak. And the Turkish TB2 drone, due to the lack of anti-aircraft weapons outside the defense zone, to use missiles and bombs to attack the target, it had to fly very close to the target so that it was easy to be hit by various anti-aircraft weapons. But as the conflict developed, both sides found that using such a small drone to observe the battlefield from a distance of about 5 kilometers away from the enemy, commonly known as an open view or cross view, is a difficult combat method for both the Russian and Ukrainian air defense systems. At this distance, the light-emitting devices on the drone can effectively search and identify the enemy's military deployment and movements. At the same time, the enemy can only detect the existence of small drones by using large-scale anti-aircraft systems such as the Dor M1. At the same time, it is difficult for small drones to be detected by the anti-aircraft radar system of the old generation, as well as the infrared light-emitting system. And even if it is used to intercept with the Dor missile, it is still not practical. Although the price of the Dor missile itself is relatively low, but after all, a launch vehicle only has 8 missiles, and due to the design of the vertical launch system of the Dor launch vehicle, it is not easy to load and load, so it is very likely that when facing multiple drones, the operator will use up the missiles quickly in order to eliminate the target, resulting in the loss of combat ability in a short period of time. Because drones on the modern battlefield are really the cure for many problems. It can be said that every soldier hopes to get his own drone, whether it is to watch the battlefield from the sky, to carry out communications interception, or to launch some weapons. Drones are the ideal solution to solve tactical problems. Of course, when chatting with related professional friends, they also mentioned that the current information warfare has actually encountered a problem. That is, with the explosive increase in the number of drones on the front line and the number of information systems, computing has become a bottleneck. The current battlefield system, whether it is Russian or American, is only a hope to achieve the ideal goal that allows the frontline commander to have almost a godlike perspective. Back to the air defense system, the previous Russian air defense system mainly considered the target, which is a tactical aircraft helicopter for low-altitude air defense in the Cold War period. So its design of the air defense system density and specific system configuration are all for the enemy aircraft with a large number of anti-aircraft weapons in the defense zone. But if the enemy uses a large number of anti-aircraft weapons outside the defense zone, or faces a large number of drone threats, then there will be this kind of similar unsuitable difficulty mentioned above. Although the Russian military has already introduced all the modernized air defense systems, there are still situations that are difficult to deal with, even when facing dozens or even dozens of drones. Therefore, some friends in the relevant field said that when they learned the theory of the air defense system, they thought that it was not easy to increase the performance of the new generation of air defense systems to a certain extent against the air threat of that era. The rise of drones has been reversed. This is not the first time. Armenia, which previously accepted Russian military aid, did not play a particularly good role in the conflict with Azerbaijan, and the number of Soviet air defense systems they purchased did not play a particularly good role. It can be seen that the future of air defense combat is indeed a problem. The existing air defense system has not met the needs of the new era in many respects. For example, the number of targets to be dealt with at the same time, the number of air-to-air information received in the system, and the number of terminals are explosive. As for the means of killing, the existing high explosive and missiles are also insufficient, so it is necessary to carry out a comprehensive redesign to be able to deal with the future rapid development of air threats. In order to deal with this problem, a plan to use drones against drones was also launched, which is to develop drones specifically for air defense, use small-sized turbine jet engines, and install cheap infrared and infrared light sensors on the aircraft. If the detection distance is only about 2 kilometers, then the price can be compressed to a very low price. In addition, the aircraft itself, that is, the aircraft model level, will cost very little. After launch, it can form a wind group, or in fact, there is no need for a wind group, and it is directly selected in the designated area of the battlefield. After detecting the enemy drone, it will be hit and carried on the existing large drone with cheap anti-drone ammunition specially developed. Of course, due to the existing drone work model, it is unrealistic to have ground control air combat and to let them have the ability to independently intercept in the air. In addition, this kind of air-to-air air defense idea is very similar to the American air defense model. The American air defense idea is to keep only the lowest limit of field air defense capability, to keep only patriotic anti-aircraft missiles and single short-range missiles, and to hand over the main air control task to the Air Force fighters, especially to the Air Force, for the comprehensive strike and suppression of the enemy air force. At present, this idea is extremely reasonable for those who have air and long-range strike advantages. However, with the experience of the Russian-Ukrainian war, the U.S. Army began to re-emphasize the issue of field air defense, and their idea is to still hand over the task of striking the enemy's high-value air targets to the Air Force. The Army only considers advanced air defense, and the main combat targets are drones and smart bombs. For this purpose, they developed the IM-12 air defense system. The bombs used in this system are improved toxin, and it is equipped with a bomb trap to better adapt to dealing with small-scale drone targets. At the same time, they also plan to use Hellfire anti-tank missiles as a means of dealing with long-range drones. This type of missile range can reach 8 kilometers, and it can strike long-range drones. In addition, in order to deal with the enemy's self-propelled drones and smart bombs, it is equipped with a 30mm machine gun and a smart locating tracer to improve the ability to intercept. As for the detection system, it is inexpensive, and it uses a small, four-sided radar like a micro-land-based Jostyn system. In general, the Russian air defense system S-300, S-400, or S-500 did not play a significant role in the Russian-Ukrainian war. The most critical reason is the technical problem. Although these systems are considered advanced air defense systems, they actually have technical shortcomings or limitations. For example, the radar system may be disturbed or unable to effectively detect and track targets. The range and accuracy of the missiles may also be affected by environmental factors. The second is the factors of the combat environment. The combat environment may affect the performance of these systems. For example, complex terrain, bad weather conditions, or electromagnetic interference may weaken their performance. Another effective air defense system requires a comprehensive system, including a warning system, a command and control center, and other related support facilities. If these components are missing or the coordination between them is not good, the performance of the air defense system may be limited. Finally, the countermeasures of the other side will also affect the air defense system. Ukraine also took some countermeasures to fight against the Russian air defense system, including using electronic warfare to interfere with the radar, using anti-missile missiles to attack the air defense system, or using other tactics to avoid air defense firepower. The fundamental reason for the poor performance of the Russian air defense system is that Russia has been subject to technical and military sanctions for many years. This greatly limits the development of Russian military technology, including the development of civilian technology, such as microelectronics, chip technology, radar technology, electronic warfare technology, etc. Russia is seriously behind in this era, which can be said to be one era behind Europe and the United States. What do you think about this? Leave a comment in the comment section. Like and subscribe my channel. See you next time.